Hi, so we're getting a Elden Ring release very soon. So I thought I'd make a video talking a little bit about the series as a whole leading up to Elden Ring, and also make a few warnings or predictions about the channel itself. Hmm, Regarding the channel, I intend to continue putting out videos for the new series, the Marketplace of Theories, where I talk about other people's theories. But Elden Ring is coming out, so I'm going to devote a lot of my attention and a lot of my efforts to Elden Ring, at least at first. So that means I may not be putting out other kinds of videos for a while. And it may end up being that I may not put out any kind of videos at all for a while, depending on how things will go with Elden Ring. It still remains to be seen how deep the lore goes, how intricate and difficult to delve into it will be. So it might end up being another quick and dirty affair like Sekiro was, in which case I'll be putting out videos pretty soon. But if it isn't, and I'm half hoping, half expecting it not to be, then I don't want to be putting out videos with speculation without having unraveled enough of the lore to be certain of what I'm saying. So in that case, if the lore runs deep enough, then I would rather take my time and craft my theories appropriately before I start going public with them. And that's both a best and worst case scenario at the same time. It's the best case scenario because I need it. I just need it. I need the lore, man. And, it's just fun. It's better that way if there's more lore. But that also means the channel might be halting production for a while. And YouTube doesn't like that. So if that's the case, then everybody just please be patient with me and wait a little bit for the videos to start coming out. Now, the reason why I'm half expecting Elden Ring to run deep as far as lore goes back to the retrospective itself, because I think Elden Ring might be the culmination of a process of the evolution of Miyazaki and From Software and Soulsborne. So looking back now, if we're going to categorize all of the entries in the Soulsborne franchises, starting with Demon Souls, that was Miyazaki's proof of concept. It was very restrictive, and his priority seemed to have been just getting Soulsborne out there and testing the public's reaction. He supposedly even had to go around the studio, like the executives didn't really know what he was doing. He was deceiving them, lying to them up to the very end, because he didn't think the executives would have approved of his vision. But then Demon Souls came out and people actually liked it. There was a market for it. And so they gave him the opportunity to move ahead with his vision and make Dark Souls. Okay, you made Demon Souls. People seemed to have liked it. And now you get a chance to show us what Soulsborne is actually really about. So he made Dark Souls. Instant classic, defined a whole genre. And it was just leaps and bounds, leagues ahead of Demon Souls in many, many respects. It wasn't just bigger, it was more intricate. The connections ran deeper. It was it gained something and it lost something as well, a little bit of something as well. It became more of this tapestry than Demon Souls was. Demon Souls was a more vague collection of opaque concepts that actually interconnected and created a more detailed lore than most people seem to give it credit for. But still, in comparison to Dark Souls, it was very opaque, in my opinion. That actually goes back to the predictions as well, because I've played Demon Souls recently, and I have my theories already, kind of. Like, they're not 100% defined, but I've outlined my thoughts on most of it, basically all of it. It still remains to be seen if anything will be changed, but I'm saving it for after Elden Ring, right? I'm not going to start a Demon Souls series right on the doorsteps of Elden Ring. So, after we're done with Elden Ring, you can wait for my vision of Boletaria. And yeah, back to the retrospective. So, that was Dark Souls, right? He moved forward with his vision, and he made something that was bigger and better, even though it had lost something. And that something was nuance, I think. The reason why a lot of people kind of look at Demon Souls and think there's not a lot of lore there to be found is because it was more nuanced than Dark Souls. Dark Souls was, despite the honest and notorious difficulty in unraveling its lore, Dark Souls was much more straightforward than Demon Souls. Finding the pieces was more straightforward. And the thing about Dark Souls 1 is, even though at that point he seems to have had carte blanche to do whatever the fuck he wanted, it was still the first time he was able to do whatever the fuck he wanted. He had done Demon Souls already, but that was a very constrained creative effort. Now he had the freedom to do whatever the fuck he wanted, so it was still testing grounds. It was still a learning process for him, for them, I believe. They tested the overall concept with Demon Souls, and then they tested all the nitty-gritty stuff with Dark Souls, which can also be discerned by the fact that Dark Souls didn't answer all of its questions. It left a lot of stuff unanswered, a lot of gaps. Like, if it were just Dark Souls 1, without 2 and 3, you wouldn't be able to unravel all of its lore just by that entry alone. We needed the rest of the series to do that. Not because the answers were too hard to find, but because some of the answers were just missing. Okay, and then from that, Miyazaki himself moved on to Project Beast, later called Bloodborne, and the Dark Souls franchise was continued by a different director who made Dark Souls 2, a famously convoluted process for the production of that game. We got what we've got. It's good, but it's not perfect by a long shot. Like, I like it. Okay, I like it a lot, Dark Souls 2. But it's the worst of the series, right? Of all From Software Soulsborne games, that's my least favorite. There's a lot of flaws in there. We can see a lot of potential in it. Maybe if they had had more time or better leadership, or maybe it was just the technology that needed to catch up with their vision. I don't know. There's a bunch of reasons why things could have gone wrong or how it could have gone better, but we got what we got. And yeah, it cannot be dismissed. It is a part of the series, it is canon. Miyazaki doesn't ignore Dark Souls 2, and neither should we. But it's also not a Miyazaki game, right? And so, yeah, Miyazaki moved on to Bloodborne. And after having put to practice all his ideas of how it was really supposed to work with Dark Souls, I believe Bloodborne was the evolution of Soulsborne, right? Because from Demon Souls to Dark Souls, it was mostly about this is a rough sketch and this is a finished product. But you can't really compare a sketch to a finished product, right? Like, they're not on the same category. But from Dark Souls to Bloodborne, yeah, they're both full-fledged projects on their own rights, creatively speaking. And Bloodborne, in my opinion, is the best Soulsborne game thus far. It brings all the best parts of Demon Souls and Dark Souls together, and it really shows how much Miyazaki learned from Dark Souls. The adjective I usually use to describe Bloodborne is elegant. Everything about it, the whole design, it's just elegant, it's beautiful. And the lore, oh my god, the lore. Like, Dark Souls has, as a series, may kinda have a leg up on Bloodborne, but that's just because it's a series. It takes 3 games in Dark Souls to do what Bloodborne does with just 1. Lore-wise, it's so fucking dense. Everything is just oozing with lore. And everything is beautifully put together. It's a lot more nuanced than Dark Souls, just like Demon Souls was. But at the same time, the structure of the lore is also more rigid than Demon Souls was, just like Dark Souls. So all the connections, not just the individual ones, like the overarching connections, however everything fits together. Those connections are more elusive than in Dark Souls, but the end product, the framework that they create, are more rigid than Demon Souls. So you get a lot less room for error. Meaning, if you're unbiased about it and you really follow reason to its end, it's harder to get into the door. But after you cross a certain threshold, your conclusions are also more solid for it. There is a better foundation upon which to build your theories if you get the right foot into the door. Since all the connections are so elusive, you can't get the wrong foot in. And then you're fucked. Everything you build upon that is going to be wrong, quote unquote wrong. But that's always kind of been the case, right? But Bloodborne provides a better foundation than Dark Souls did for our theories, for our interpretation of the lore. And yeah, enough gushing about Bloodborne, my favorite game of all times. From there, Miyazaki went back to Dark Souls. Dark Souls 3 came out. And I think he kinda had to. I don't think it's something he deeply wanted within himself. I don't think he had this yearning to go back to that franchise. Like, he's always starting new franchises. He's always going for a new IP. He's always trying to get something new done. But he kinda had to go back to Dark Souls because it needed a bookend. Like I said before, Dark Souls 1 didn't answer all of its own questions. It wasn't finalized yet. It was fucking great, don't get me wrong, but Miyazaki just kinda had to go back and finish what he had started. That's the purpose of Dark Souls 3, in my opinion. And he brought everything he had learned from Bloodborne to Dark Souls 3, that much is obvious. It's really apparent. But at the same time, Dark Souls 3 was still part of a series, so it was constrained by the rules that had been established by that series. So he couldn't really apply everything he had learned to it, right? So you get a better version than what you had before, but still not on par with Bloodborne. The greatest strength of Dark Souls 3, in my opinion, is the dynamic that it creates with the rest of the series. Like, I find really cool how it plays with the concept of the passage of time, even more so than the other two did. How it manages to create a complete story and lore for itself and a separate one that takes into consideration the rest of the series, and how that is also presented as a matter of perspective. The people of that age don't necessarily know the history that we do. Dark Souls 3 presents an interpretation of the lore from their perspective, and another one for those who are privileged to the knowledge of eons long past, like we are. So yes, it's great. It's really interesting, but again, it only really shines when you bring all of the series together. You need the whole trilogy for it to really, really shine. Whereas Bloodborne is a masterpiece unto its own. And then we had Sekiro. And Sekiro is a mixed bag. To be completely honest with you, Sekiro was a bit disappointing for me. Like, it's not bad, it's not even mediocre, it's good, it's just good. But it also has a lot to live up to, and it kind of fails to do that. And I don't think that's Sekiro's fault. Like, I think that was its destiny already. An excellent game in the broader context, but a mediocre soulsborne game. Because I think Sekiro was kind of a side project. Like, given the time frame of Elden Ring's production, I think Sekiro was a way for Miyazaki to test a lot of new concepts and the strengths and weaknesses of their team and how they had been doing things. He played around with new combat styles, new mechanics, to various degrees of success. And most importantly, I think, he played around with narrative a little bit. Like the lore is good. It's from Software, it's Miyazaki. The lore is good. It's just really not on par with either Bloodborne or the Dark Souls trilogy. Where he played around with narrative in that game was Dark Souls and Bloodborne had its entire narrative play out through the lore, basically. Like, there's very little conventional storytelling going on. And I think that was kind of lacking from Miyazaki Soulsborne games. And I think he felt that way too. Sekiro introduces that kind of straightforward narrative that we see in other games to the series. And since that's something they hadn't been doing, they had to test out the waters, see how well they could do it, and how that would jive with the lore stuff, right? Because you'd be telling the same story kinda, but through two different routes. And he needed to see how that would work. And I think that was Sekiro's purpose. It was a crash test dummy. And that straightforward narrative, that conventional narrative that he introduced, was kind of telling. Because they don't seem to be very good at it. The people that they had working in that project from software. It's a bit clunky. There's some stuff in there that doesn't translate well from Japanese to Western media. Like Wolf is very fond of repeating everything everybody says to him. And I don't really watch a lot of Japanese media here, but I kind of get the impression that's something that happens here for characters to be told something and then just repeat that same thing back to the person that they're talking to. And how you repeat that conveys some of the emotion on the back and forth on the dialogue. But I don't think that translates very well culturally when you're playing the game in English, or when you're just not familiar with this kind of narrative device that they seem to use here. I think I have that impression. Dialogues in general are a bit lackluster, and there's not a lot of dynamic within that section of the story. And I think Miyazaki kind of realized all of those flaws, and I think that's one of the reasons why they got R.R. Martin on board with Elden Ring. Well, they seem to learn a lot from every project that they make, so they may have fixed some of those flaws from within their own team for the next project, but they also seem to be aware that they may need help from outside in that department too. And that's where we get to Elden Ring, the culmination of all of this. After Miyazaki has had the chance to test out and iterate upon every single aspect that comprises a soulsborne game, after the whole team has had the chance to evolve through this whole process, after having gone through that last bit that was very important from Sekiro, where they started exploring another aspect of narrative that they hadn't been implementing before, and that, in my humble opinion, was really lacking from Soulsborne games. And I think they're going to bring all that to Elden Ring. And since you had these extra steps, these spin-off side notes with Dark Souls 2 and 3, 2 because it's not a Miyazaki game. So with Dark Souls 3 being one where he had to bookend the story, finish a project, and Sekiro being testing grounds for new concepts and ideas, you had Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne as real full-fledged projects. And now, finally, Elden Ring, which I believe it's going to be like, that's the next instance where they're really going all out. And boy, I can't wait to see what it looks like now. Especially being an open world game, how's that going to affect the lore, and how much will they be implementing the new kind of narrative that they were exploring in Sekiro? And yeah, I'm half hoping, half expecting that Elden Ring might be the new Bloodborne. Who knows? One can only hope, right? And so, yeah, on that note, if Elden Ring is as good as I hope, expect, and want and need it to be, then you may not be seeing me for a while. As things progress, I might try to keep everybody updated on whether or not I'm alive and playing the game and when new content might be coming out, but we'll see. Elden Ring's coming, we'll see. I might try a little harder doing co-op, maybe. Oh, and don't forget, when Elden Ring videos start coming out, it's not just beautiful voice you'll be listening to, it's Ally Remains Ally's beautiful voice you'll be listening to. If you hadn't watched it, the last lore dump that I made features his magnificent auditory likeness. You can go listen to that, see what I'm talking about. I just really like his voice. The first time I heard it, I thought it was fucking awesome. And I'm not necessarily comfortable with the sound of my own voice anymore. I still think it sounds great, I just don't think it sounds me. So he's helping me with that as well. And I think that's a wrap. So I will see you in Elden Ring. And until then, stay safe and see you around. Bye.